What is going on, all you wonderful late plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again to give you guys another Stargirl review. This time we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode number 8. And I'm sorry if it's going to sound like I'm rushing through this review here, but what happened is that I had actually recorded about a 20-minute long review about 5 minutes ago, and I didn't realize until after I was done recording that my audio was not recording at all. So it's basically an entire video of me, just, with no sound, doing the entire review, and I guess what happened is somehow my Yeti mic setting on OBS was set to default, and I don't know why that is, so I had to switch it back to my actual Yeti mics on OBS. So now it should be working. I can actually see the sound bar going up and down, so I assume everything is back on track. With that all being said, let's definitely get into this episode, and I'll give you my thoughts on how I thought it was overall. So this episode, of course, starts with Yolanda once again trying to confess about the murder of Brainwave, but again, it's definitely something really difficult to confess when you're trying to keep your superhero life a secret. And plus, like, kind of the idea that even though legally, if you confess a murder to a priest isn't allowed to, report that murder or anything like that, it's still the fact that she knows this priest very well. So, of course, this priest knowing that she's a murderer could actually do more harm than good, because it could get her into a lot of trouble, and therefore she probably wouldn't be able to essentially help out the team as much as she, probably should be. And then on top of that, she also talks about the idea that she might have to do it again. With Eclipso being around, she brings up the idea of, is it a sin to kill like the devil, or is it a sin to just kill something that's just straight up pure evil? But of course, the priest doesn't really understand exactly what it is that she's asking him, so he's unable to give her the advice that she really needs at this point. And I do like kind of the metaphor here, just, how a lot of times it really does feel like, when you're a teenager especially, like you're always in these situations where it feels like no one can really help you because only you really know how you feel about certain things. So when you try to express how you feel about them to others and they do their best to help you, sometimes their best isn't enough. And that's unfortunately what we get with Yolanda, not just with this priest, but like it almost feels like everyone in this episode, even the people really trying to reach out to her, it just sucks because they just don't know exactly what it is that she needs, because she herself doesn't even know what she needs. And that's just life, honestly, a lot of times. And the way it's portrayed in the show, I think it's extremely well written and really well directed, especially. So we also do have other character moments, even though this is a very heavily Yolanda focused episode. I'll briefly talk about some other character moments that happen as well. One of them being the cosmic staff, currently still not working at 100%, but you can definitely tell it is in the process of recovering. And since, as far as our main characters know, Eclipso hasn't been up to anything yet, this is actually probably a good thing for them. We also cut to Yolanda and we see her first interaction with Eclipso, but unfortunately she doesn't know it's Eclipso like we as the audience do, because Eclipso is of course taking the form of Bruce, and you can see that he's doing like small bits of mischief. Although in the case of what happens during this scene, I actually think it was a very well deserved kind of moment, where essentially you have the same asshole customer who's constantly just like being unnecessarily mean to all the waitresses in the restaurant. And so when he's like, demanding for his coffee refill, you end up having Eclipso influencing the waitress to like pour the coffee onto his shoulder. A moment I thought was very well deserved, because that dude had it coming for sure. But unfortunately not without consequences, because we do find out that she was also working there overtime in order to get extra money to help her mother who's sick. But unfortunately her boss, and I'll say this, I don't think it was mean of her boss to send her home like this, because it definitely makes it, I definitely see where her boss was coming from, but her boss ends up having to send her home because he's afraid that she's been working way too much and therefore it's causing her to get exhausted, which, I gotta say, as a manager myself, I think that is actually the best way to handle a situation like that, because at least it's not like he fired her or anything like that. I was worried that it was going to lead to her getting fired on the spot or something like that, but no, it was just simply like, you need to go home and take a little bit of a rest before you come back to work. We then cut to Beth, who at this point, it's sad to see, has kind of given up hope on the idea of the original Dr. Midnight still being alive. Before it was Pat who kind of told her the idea that it could be Eclipso just kind of influencing her mind and making her think that she sees Dr. Midnight. But there was that bit of hope that, that wasn't the case. However, it does feel like that hope went away when she actually witnessed Eclipso and saw what he could do firsthand, saw the way he can make people see things, and then also just the way he can just completely disintegrate people at will. And I feel like that's what kind of got her more, got her to lose a lot more hope about it. And then, of course, having to deal with two parents who are going through a divorce and trying to keep that relationship together and trying to keep them from leaving each other. I imagine that also doesn't help with the stress as well. We get to Courtney, who is blowing off training to finally hang out with Cameron. But, I gotta say, it definitely felt very well deserved because, in the previous episodes where she's done the same thing of blowing him off in order to do JSA work, it definitely, you could definitely tell it's one of those things where it feels more douchey to say that you're gonna hang out with someone or that you're gonna be there for someone and then not show up than to just not be there at all in their lives. And so here you can kind of see that Courtney really wants to be part of his life in a way, like she definitely at the very least wants to be friends with him. I mean, obviously there's definitely a bit of romantic tension between the two of them, but at the very least you can tell they both want at least friendship with each other. And so here we see Courtney really putting an effort into making sure that happens. So she blows off JSA training, and I think it's like a day where she can definitely afford to do so due to the fact that, again, as far as the JSA know, they haven't really seen Eclipso up to anything yet. And even if they knew that Eclipso was up to something, it's not like training would really make that much of a difference. So her taking some time off to hang out with Cameron, I think was pretty well deserved. What sucks though is that you also have Yolanda in the same scene noticing this and her feeling like she really needs to talk to Courtney, but also realizing that doing so might take Courtney away from Cameron. You get her feeling very conflicted and feeling like she doesn't want to have to do that to Courtney. So she ends up kind of giving Courtney some space at first. We then cut back to Mike and Pat continuing to work on the striped robot, and I gotta say, man, Mike needs to learn himself some patience because for some reason I guess he assumed that working on the robot meant that they were going to fix it real fast while adding all these really cool weapon modifications to it. But of course Pat tells him that no, we got to do the boring stuff before we can get to the fun stuff, and I guess that really upsets Mike, and to that I just say, dude, patience, my friend, patience. We then cut back to the priest that Yolanda has been confessing to, and we find out that he's been telling Yolanda's mom about how he's very concerned about her. Now, he doesn't tell her what it is that Yolanda's been telling him, but immediately right there, Yolanda's mom is just extremely frustrated with Yolanda, and she wants to, lash out at her. And it's really cool having the priest stand up to Yolanda, saying that she's had a year and a half of judgment. What she needs now is love and care. And I thought that was actually a beautiful moment, mostly because I've grown up, in a very not toxic religious household, right? But that said, I've known a lot of people that have grown up in a very toxic religious environment. And it sucks because people like that who have like this, very closed-minded idea of what's good and what's bad, it really is frustrating because you can't get to them. You can't, by get to them, I mean you can't change their minds. The only thing that will change their minds is someone like with who basically works under God, like someone like a priest or a pastor. Those tend to be the only type of people that can really open up their minds to new things. And so, seeing that it has to be a priest to tell Yolanda's mom to stop being a bitch to Yolanda, it is really sad because it makes you hate Yolanda's mom more, but it does make you really appreciate this priest for actually being there to stick up for her, even after like all the kind of non-confession she's been doing. Like the fact that he knows something's up with her and that she has no one to go to about it. He does feel like, you could tell here, it's more of like he feels like she's not confessing to him because they don't have a personal relationship, and what she needs is someone that she's close to personally to like be able to actually confess what it is that she needs to confess. And I think that's what's brilliant about him trying to get that through to her mother's head. So I do hope we get a little bit. I'm not saying like, her mother's gonna fully change, become a fully better person, but it would be nice to like see her actually finally apologize to Yolanda, especially after the previous season where she continues to just be a complete judgmental asshole to her. So we cut to Yolanda back in summer school, and we really get to see, the real effects of killing Brainwave and what it's actually doing to her, because she starts to see a message on her phone that is reminiscence of the message that was sent to her back in season 1 from her boyfriend, the one before she sent him the topless photo that he ended up sending to the entire school. But this time, the photo that's below is a photo of her in class, implying that he's watching her, and she looks up and then sees Henry, so she immediately goes to follow. But unfortunately, even though she gets to see Henry at first, it's not actually Henry that she runs into, it's Brainwave. And Brainwave basically uses his son to make her feel even more guilty, trying to convince her that, she's responsible for his son's death, which is very much not true. No one is responsible for his death except for Brainwave himself, and not to mention on top of that saying that she should feel guilty for killing him and that kind of stuff, just really tormenting him. And it's not until Courtney's able to kind of get through to Yolanda we find out that this whole thing was a dream. But we then cut back to the shop, and and the visions don't really stop there, because here we're with Mike as he's working on the stripe outfit, and we see that he's starting to get visions too. Visions of the black diamond. As he goes to the black diamond to look at it, he then starts to notice leeches all over him, and that's when we find out that Pat is actually working on trying to restore the black diamond, thinking that it might be excuse me, it might be the only thing that can once again trap Eclipso after defeating him. So, I am kind of interested to see where that goes, and I do have kind of a theory with Eclipso that I want to get into at the very end, similar to my theory in the previous episode. So we then cut to Courtney's house where the four of them are all together, and this is where Yolanda kind of confesses about killing Brainwave, something I didn't realize that Courtney was the only one who knew about. But yeah, apparently neither Rick or Beth knew that Yolanda had killed Brainwave, and you got Rick trying to convince her that she did nothing wrong, but Yolanda is not buying it, because she also, brings up the fact that Rick couldn't even kill Solomon Grundy, the man that killed his parents, so who is he to judge whether or not what she did was right or wrong? And then one thing I like, it's very similar to Courtney in the very first episode of the season. With Beth, she's just honestly not sure whether or not she can say what Yolanda did was right or wrong, because she wasn't there, and just, even if she was there, and even if she had seen everything going on, the idea of killing to save your own life, whether or not that's right or wrong, it's really hard to say, because that's all just based on personal opinions at that point, because it's not like we have an actual moral law of what is right and what is wrong. So what it all kind of comes down to is you're killing someone to not only save yourself but save many people in the town, and if you hadn't done it at that exact moment, everyone would be dead. So at that point, I think the only way you can really look at it is in a mathematical way, and the fact that this guy is pure evil. You kill him in order to save millions of or at this point, no, I think it was millions. Yeah, it would have been millions of people that would have died if Brainwave had gone through with his plan. So, I really don't think Yolanda did anything wrong, to my opinion, but I do like the fact that not everyone in the show can share that same opinion, because it is definitely a very gray area, of course. We once again have Yolanda trying to confess, but unfortunately at this point we get Brainwave back, and he's seemingly taking full control of her. And here we get the explanation that he gives, and what it is that after she killed Brainwave, a part of him, his actual no, it's not telekinesis. I forgot what it is when it's mental, but either way, his power was able to transfer into her mind, so he was able to keep himself alive in her mind. And he even explains to her that he's able to use her own guilt against her in order to take over her, and eventually get full control at the end. Luckily Stargirl is there to seemingly save Yolanda with the cosmic staff. I'm not quite sure how that works. This is the one complaint I really have with the episode, is that it's hard to tell through this scene and then the next scene with Courtney which parts of it were actually part of a dream and which parts of it were just Yolanda just kind of floating around in the air, not actually seeing, but without people being able to see what's going on. Like, they do make it very unclear how much of it was a dream and how much of it actually happened, is what I'm getting at. So that's probably like my one complaint with the episode. But the cosmic staff does seemingly help Yolanda for a brief moment, but unfortunately it is followed by Yolanda eventually quitting being a Wildcat, and then also expressing a kind of anger towards Courtney for being the one who convinced her to be Wildcat. In a little bit of a way, she's honestly kind of, this moment of hers actually kind of makes her seem a little bit more like her mom. And I'm not saying like she's gone full, 100% asshole like her mom has, definitely not, but just kind of the idea of blaming a decision that she made on someone else definitely does kind of come off as like something like her mom would do, of course. So you get this moment, but of course what I love is that you can tell Courtney is not holding it against her at all, because she can definitely just tell that Yolanda is completely hurting. And of course it kind of works too, unfortunately, is that Courtney does kind of start to feel guilty after this, after Yolanda says it's your fault that I killed Brainwave, you did this to me. There is that bit of guilt that Courtney immediately feels after that. We get Courtney trying to get a hold of her, but unfortunately, her mom kind of tells Courtney to piss off and saying that she's everything wrong with Yolanda. And we get a similar moment at the diner where we have the same worker that we saw in the beginning, who's clearly talking to Yolanda's mom, and Yolanda's mom is telling her that she quit. But before the waitress can even finish her next sentence, which is meant to be like, hey, if she ever wants a job, she's always welcome back, her mom already hangs up on her. This leads me to kind of wonder, did Brainwave already finish taking control of Yolanda? At the very end, what she's doing with her scene with Courtney, she's trying to make Courtney feel guilty about making her Wildcat, which doesn't quite seem like something Yolanda would do. Now, of course, it could be Yolanda, because of course, when we're all in distress, we tend to do things that make us feel very out of character, feel like something we would never actually say in real life, and that's definitely what the scene could be. But to me, it kind of comes off as maybe Brainwave has actually already taken full control of Yolanda. And one of the things that we've seen Brainwave do is constantly make people feel more guilty than they need to, make them feel responsible for things that they didn't do. And so that's what it kind of comes off as here. Yolanda's making Courtney feel a lot more guilty for something that wasn't really her fault to begin with. So I do think that currently Brainwave has taken over Yolanda, and with Brainwave's powers slowly being able to manifest and return, he's able to use that to take control of Yolanda's mother as well. And that's who these two are talking to. It's not actually Yolanda's mother, but rather Yolanda's mother controlled by Brainwave. So that's, my current theory of what's going on with Stargirl. I definitely look forward to seeing where they go with the rest of this storyline. But our very last scene is kind of just Courtney telling her family that she has no idea how to get through to Yolanda at this point. And then we do have Mike kind of finally talking about how he actually does feel guilty about killing Icicle and how it was all done by a complete accident. So this was a really good episode, one that really kind of goes over the idea of just being a superhero and what it means, like the lines you may have to cross for the overall good of humanity, and it's one of those things where it's really hard to say whether or not something, you do the wrong thing for the right reason, whether or not that's a good or bad thing. And I think this episode really tackles that subject so very well. I think the drama is incredibly well written in this episode, and of course I gotta praise the acting in this. Yolanda's actress does such an amazing performance in the entire episode. Like, you really do start to feel extremely emotional for her, not just because of the really well written dialogue, but just because of the way that she delivers it throughout the entire episode. Overall, this was a really great episode of Stargirl, and definitely one that feels like the perfect follow-up to what I thought was like probably my favorite episode in the previous one. Definitely worth a watch, and I really look forward to see where they go with the rest of the Brainwave storyline. Something that this show has been doing a really good job of is really balancing the villains out perfectly. Like, here we get a little bit of Eclipso and a little bit of Brainwave, but it never feels like one is overshadowing the other, and it doesn't ever feel like either one of them is taking up too much screen time. I think the pacing of this season has been absolutely excellent, and I really hope it continues that momentum for the latter half of the season as well. But guys, at the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. We here at A+ Opinions always want to know what you guys think, so definitely let me know in the comments below if you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, but of course guys, above all, don't forget to keep it A+. I'll talk to you all later.
If you enjoy our content and want to be a part of helping our channel grow, become a patron supporter. We have affordable tiers to choose from that offer a variety of exclusive and early access content, from audio files for all of our shows for you to enjoy on the road, access to our Discord community, and plenty of reactions, reviews, character breakdowns, and more. Check us out at patreon.com/A+opinions. And as always, remember, like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so anytime we drop a brand new video, you will be notified.